Hello, welcome to Masterpiece, a place designed for ordinary people eager to discover their hidden potentials and be transformed into masterpieces holistically, physically, emotionally, financially, and of course, spiritually. I pray that you will find these programs, interviews, and discussions enhancing your work in every way. Welcome, and let's go on this journey together. Hello, and good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time zone that you're in and where you're joining us from. Well, today we are so excited to come together again, continue our lesson on leadership, because it's something that we all want to have. We all want to aspire to be good leaders and great leaders. Some of us have had good examples of leaders, and others we haven't had any good example. But regardless, we are still good candidates to learn and relearn to become good leaders. So my name is Tina. If you join us, I want you to tell me where you are joining us from so we can acknowledge you and we can, make sure that we connect, even though we don't see you, right? So share with us where you're joining us from, and then we can continue to chat. But we are joined today by one gentleman that has been with us from the very start. He's been amazing with us for our journey on finances. He's talked about careers in finance with us, and today he's here to talk to us about leading yourself as a young person. I think we all know when we were all young, and so those of you who are even younger now, you know how difficult it is to lead yourself when you're young. Well, we've all been there, we've all done that, or some people are still going through the young stages, and it feels like there's so much time. So why bother? Well, why don't we sit with Archie today, and then we're going to hear from his side of the story, how it feels to lead yourself when you're young and what you can do to be a good leader of yourself in these times of being a young person so that you don't lose out on making the most of your time. Okay, so let's welcome Archie Andah to join us. Archie, so I didn't give you a very elaborate, thing about who Archie is. But if you don't know Archie, Archie is going to tell us who Archie is in just a minute so you can get to meet Archie yourself. Archie, welcome.
Thank you so much, Auntie Tina, for having me. It's a pleasure, as always, to come on this platform. Every time you reach out to me, you ask, "Hey, would you be interested?" And the answer every time is going to be, "Of course, of course, of course, of course." I'm so thankful and blessed to have you, and I I'm I'm happy that the people that are connected to you have you in their lives to have this platform to share so much good knowledge. So again, I'm always going to be I'm always going to be to
Make
give
yourself
make
available.
myself available to come on onto this platform. So I'm happy to
Yeah.
be here.
Thank you. And I think that's one key thing that I really admire about Archie. It's like, and he doesn't talk much as you think he will, but he will talk a lot in this space. But I will reach out to him and I'm like, okay, are you able to do this? And the answer is yes. So let's talk about leadership, because that's a cardinal thing about leader. Not like you say yes to everything, but you are able to see opportunities and you're able to own them and you're able to walk into them. Right. So who is Archie? Because someone is new here, someone hasn't been on this platform for long, and they don't know this amazing gentleman coming to us today. So who is Archie in your own words? Hi, Dr. Vivian.
Who am I? I am someone who loves on people, and for me, I have an internal goal of for me to smile every day, and then to make someone
Mm.
else smile every day. And so, at my core, I'm a helper, and I just want to be a resource to anyone in any way that I can.
Wow. Wow. You just said something at your core, because yesterday we were talking about 7 habits of highly effective people. And we were talking about having your core and who you are, like being able to define that. And I love that you're able to put to it, yourself into that and say that
Mhm.
this is who I am at the very core. That's awesome. So you have already read the book, it looks like.
I have. So what's funny is my mom actually got me the book Seven Habits of Highly Effective Teens when I was probably in sixth grade, seventh grade. So I read that one,
Really?
and I've come now to read Seven Habits of Highly Effective. people. So
Oh,
yeah, I'm very
wow.
the book for the teens was actually written by Stephen Covey's son.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
very very well understood
Amazing.
there.
I have it for my kids, and you should see the struggle that it's taking us to go through that one. But
So let me first preface. There was the same struggle. There was the same struggle at that age. I think we'll talk a little bit more about empathy, but I'm definitely, and my mom can attest to this. I'm not someone that had everything figured out when I was 12 and 13. It was still a struggle. There's still teeth pulling to get me to read it, but eventually I did read it, and I did find a lot of value from it.
amazing, amazing. So, what has been your journey like leading yourself as a young person to where you are now? Like, you've done some things, been able to get through school, even with all the challenges that come to young people. I mean, at that age, and to even get through your bachelor's a bit quicker than normal. How have you been able to lead yourself? Let's because it looks like you got it all figured out. You sort of seem to have just arrived. So before we make that assumption, we want to hear what has been your journey.
So my journey, I always had an interest in finance, and so I knew I wanted to do something in that field. And so when I was in high school and even in college, I would just actively just call random advisors and ask to shadow them. Right, I wanted to learn, hey, what do I have to do to get into this career? And what I learned in doing that is when someone is um, actively trying to learn and actively trying to grow, people see that and they love that and they will pour into you.
Oh,
And I was able to get some great mentors that allowed me to now get into an internship program um, with the current firm that I'm associated with. And after that internship program, I worked my butt off and was able to go full time and build out my own practice. And now today we have a team of five, and we're green and growing.
that's-
It's not classified, so I'm 24 years old.
you're 24 years old. You have a team of 5 people. You've been able to stand up an organization that you're working with.
Hmm.
How did you do that? Like you just walked through these steps so quickly that I still feel like the person who is going to listen to this is not going to be able to get the steps and what is taking you to be where you are, right? So I want you to break it down a bit more and help us to understand what has it taken for you to come here or to this point, navigating all the challenges of being a young person and not having the experience and sometimes wanting to just have the instant gratification type of life because you're young and be able to do it.
So I think it starts with a very important question. And I was posed this question, and when I was first asked this question, I didn't have an answer. And it took me a long time before I could generate an answer. But the question is simply, what do you want?
Mm, what
And the thing that I've seen pretty consistently with people who are successful and that have accomplished a lot in their fields is that they're very clear on that, right? They're very clear on what they want and what they want to build. And again, this is something that I have to really give a shout out to my mother because every year at the start of the new year we would do vision boards.
mm,
And when I was younger I thought they were lame, but now as an adult in my business, we're all about vision. So our team, we have vision meetings once a month where we're sharing
mm,
our visions. And I think it's very important to do that. It just starts with
mm,
a piece of paper, just listing out what are things I want. Hey, I want to be healthy, right? I want to be, this, right? It's just list out the general things that you want. And then from
right.
there, go into detail. And what's great is that once you have all that stuff down, you're now able to reverse engineer and figure out what you have to do today to get there. And what's funny is, again, essentially as a planner, that's what I do, right? I simply
Mm,
want to know what someone wants, and then we'll be able to leverage tools, tactics, and strategies to get them to know what they should do today to achieve those goals that they want to have. It's the same thing. And again, this is all stuff that I learned. It was not things I had figured out from the start, but it's just about being clear, being intentional on what we want to have and who we want to be, and and just be able to view that every day.
wow, what do you want? And I see you, Kwame Sarkodie, welcome. But what do you want? Actually, that is a very powerful question that we have to ask ourselves as young people, as anybody. Just What do you want? Even at this time, what do you want? What do you want in 10 years? What do you want in
Hmm.
5 years? That's a good question to ask yourself. Wow. Well, we'll go and think about that. You
Hmm.
know, as we were about to talk, I called my high school freshman, they call it. And
Hmm.
then I called the seventh grader and I told them I'm talking to Archie. So what questions do they have for Archie? And they
Hmm.
asked a few questions that I thought was amazing. So I'm going to ask you some of them. But
Okay.
they asked, or the question they want to ask you is, what helped you to stay in school, right? And get motivated all through the time that you're in school? Was it the what you want, or was it being told what to do? Because I'm at that point with them where they feel like, oh yeah, you're telling me to go to school, but school doesn't really do much for you, and all those good things that come with teenage years. Yeah.
For me, it was my parents. It was my
Mm.
parents. Them believing in me, and I think it just took a lot of just self awareness on my part to look around and see that all that my parents have sacrificed for me, and who am I to waste that sacrifice, right? To come here to the United States, right, when they had nothing,
Mm.
the ancestors before me, right? I'm meant to carry that on. So I want to be a steward of all the blessings that I have. So I want to make sure that every day I'm living that out and doing things the best of my ability. Right? Again, we can fail. Failing is something that can almost hold us back. Right? We have a fear of failure, but the
Mhm.
reality is that people who win fail more than people who lose. Right?
Absolutely.
Winners lose more than losers lose. Right? We at
Mm.
least just have to try and give effort and control what we can control. And again, I didn't have this figured out, but it just through just constant just meditation with myself, prayer, self reflection, I was able to um, just be clear on that, right? And knowing that I want to be a steward of my blessings, a steward of my parents, and to honor them. And yeah, again, I'll always take an opportunity to thank my parents. I'm not sure if they're watching right now, but it's I would not be here without them, without their belief in me, without their um, not them always putting me, putting pressure on me. I think sometimes we can run away from pressure. I think there's obviously a way to apply it in a sense. Um, but for me, I'm so grateful and I'm so blessed that I had that, right, to keep me on the straight and narrow. Because I would not be here where without my parents and without all their efforts into me and all their prayers of me. I'm sure that they would say the exact same thing.
Amazing. So actually, I think you sound too wise, and Dr. Vivian said wise words, which is exactly what I was saying. Helen is welcome. Helen was saying that being a good steward of the blessings that you have. Yeah, Dr. Vivian is watching for your parents, is what she said. So
And again, that piece is so important, right?
yeah,
Especially you talked a little bit about entrepreneurship
yeah,
before, and as an entrepreneur, you have a lot of autonomy,
yeah.
right? You have a lot of free time, right?
Mhm.
But again, you have to pay for that in a sense. You have to be a steward of the autonomy before you can truly
Mm.
enjoy that, right? I was just sharing how I work on Saturdays, right? I'm that's me being a steward of my autonomy,
Right. Wow.
or a steward of our blessings.
A steward of your. So, did you understand that when you were growing, like in your teenage years? Did you really get that? Because you talked about the pressure and how your parents would give you pressure to keep you on the straight and narrow. And I know sometimes when you apply the pressure, our teenagers are saying, "Oh, that's too much. You people are too old school." Did you feel all those type of emotions? And how did you manage that?
Again, so for me, it wasn't something that was figured out in my teenage years. It probably for me took my second year of college, where I think I was able to really piece together all of these thoughts and then
Yeah.
just start going.
Mm.
And again, that's just life experiences and just understanding just as young people, we are millionaires, right? We have so much time on our hands. Warren Buffett is in his 80s, I believe. I'm sure he would give some of his billions of dollars to be 24 years old again,
Oh
right?
yeah.
To have that time.
Hmm.
And so for me, again, I think time in itself, age is a blessing. Being young is a blessing. right? To be able to have that. And I think obviously we can make mistakes and learn from that, but it's even more powerful if we can learn from the mistakes from others, right? And just grow, right? That's how we can take things to the next level.
Amazing. Amazing. Actually, this question was actually something I wrote down before you said what you said, but you had said how your parents had been a great source of motivation for you. My daughter asked me this question, and I'm going to actually say, who else apart from your parents? And she said, make sure you say apart from the parents, because I know it will be parents, but who else was such a great motivation to you as you were younger and as you were coming up? I know the parents are going to be a strong pillar in this one, but who else did you look to? Because I think there's always someone somewhere, maybe you did not know, but you read about, that motivated you. Who was that, or who were they?
Yeah, so I think what that speaks to is being very careful who we surround ourselves with, right?
Mm,
Because we as humans are the average of the five closest people around us, right?
yes.
So, I mean, the reality is that if we are spending time with people who aren't motivated, who get in trouble, who don't care, right, that's going to affect us, right? And conversely, if we spend time with people who are motivated, who get good grades, who work hard, who give the effort, that's going to again seep into us. And I call it I call it osmosis, right? Just to
Mm,
learn, you can learn just by being around people, right? That's the
right.
power of mentorship, right? Is to just learn by being around someone to kind of
Mhm.
soak that in. And so I think it's very important. So again, for in college, for me, a big person was my then girlfriend and now wife, Sarah. She was someone that was a very high achiever, a very hard
Mhm.
worker, and and so I really wanted to honor her, right? Because she's someone that always tries her hardest, always gives effort. So to be with her, I'm someone that needs to carry that same effort. I don't want to be the one
Mhm.
that is negatively affecting her, right? I want to be where
Yeah.
we're at least here or like on par with that.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, the parents are here. Abba is saying so. So Abba is here now.
Mhm.
But no, that's a powerful thing. I like how you said it. Like we are the
We're the
sum.
average, yeah. We're the
We are
average
the
of
average
the
of the
five closest people
people
around us.
that
Yeah,
are around us. So that's a good thing. Think about it. Who is around you? Who is talking to you? Who is influencing you? That is really what is shaping a lot of the things about you and motivating you to do the things that you do. Whether you believe it or not, you are taking a lot of cues from them. And that is
absolutely.
really good. Another question that the kiddos had for you, and I'm going to ask it for them, is how did you keep God as priority as you were growing up in your youth? How did you keep him? Because it's a challenge. It's like, okay, well, am I going to church for my parents? And we start talking like that as young
Hmm.
people. So how did you keep God priority for you growing up?
Again, so I would tie that back to who we surround ourselves with, right? If we surround ourselves with people who are very secular and who aren't godly and aren't believers, again, that's just naturally going to seep into us. So I think it's just being intentional with who we spend time with, right? Because each second that we have is so valuable, it's so special. And again, I think just being with my parents. My mom is a very God fearing woman, same as my dad, and so we would have prayers that we would do daily. We would do devotionals. We would do vision planning together. All that was tied back to faith. So
Mm,
everything, every goal I had was ultimately tied back to the faith that we had in God. And we'll talk more about goal setting and kind of where that fits. But I think
mm,
it goes back to having that identity of something that and I think also just the powerful thing as well that I heard is that excuse my language, but the definition of hell is going to heaven and being the person that you should have been.
you have to say that
Right.
again because I don't think I've heard that one.
The definition of hell is
Hmm.
going to heaven and being the person that we could have been, the father that we
Mm,
could have been, the
mm,
husband that we could have been, the friend that we could have been, the son that we could have been, the
wow.
believer that we could have been.
Hmm. Amazing. I have to let
But
that.
yeah,
I have to let
yeah,
that sink in a bit, right?
yeah.
So going to what did you say it again? You have to say it again.
The definition of hell
Hmm.
is meeting the person that you should have been, right? Had you maximized everything around you, right? It's meaning that your full potential, you at your best, right?
Mm,
The best possible father that you could have been, the best possible husband you could have been, the best possible son you could have, the best possible student you could have been, the best possible friend, and where you took that.
Wow. So that is, I mean, the definition of hell, if we were to put it that way, is to
Hmm.
get to that place where you meet your best you, the
Hmm.
best version of you, and you're
And you're
like,
far away from that person.
and you're so far away. You know how if we are going biblical, you say that it's like you are gnashing your teeth. You're
Yeah.
seeing what you could have done, the best believer that you could have been, the best father, the best whatever you could have been, and you just didn't do it.
Hmm.
And now
And the
you're
fruit and the
faced.
fruits of that, the fruits of that, right? The relationships that we had with our kids, right? The
Mm,
success that we
mm,
saw professionally, right?
amazing.
That's painful.
Wow. I don't remember which book it is that I read, but it was one of the books that he talked about, well, it's starting with the end in mind, right? And,
That's the seven habits. Hmm.
the seven
That's one of the
habits.
rules. Yeah.
But there was one of them that he said, you have to imagine your funeral. And then, people coming, and then what would they say about you? And you are sitting there and you are listening in on your own funeral as it's playing out. Like, what are
Hmm.
the things that you would like to hear? And what are the things that, as you're sitting there now, that you will hear?
Yeah.
And I think that is so important, that we start looking at who we really want to be. And I like how you said at the beginning, the very core of you is what you try to define as. That's amazing. Wow. Well, let's ask another question from my kiddos, and I'm sure a lot of, if you have questions and you're on here, you want to ask, and let's get it, answered. But how do we lead ourselves as young people, right? And I think one of my kids had asked, so can a young person also be a leader, and how does that look like? So I think actually this is really in your court.
Hmm. Yeah. So, within my practice, I'm obviously the boss, and I also serve a leadership role with our firm as one of our directors. Um, but one thing that I learned is that even before we're in those official titles, right, we're all leaders. Right, we all have
Mm,
the ability to positively impact someone. And here I kind of dive into some of the things I've seen, but I believe a big part of leadership is building trust and establishing trust with
yeah.
anybody. And so the formula that that I've heard that I love is trust is
Mm-hmm.
equal to reliability plus credibility
Mm.
plus intimacy
Oh my
divided
goodness.
by self orientation. Right.
Okay.
So trust is equal to
Uh-huh.
reliability
Yep.
plus credibility
Okay.
plus intimacy divided by self orientation. So I'll break down each component, right? So trust.
Okay.
So reliability, that simply is doing what we say we're going to do, right? If
Mm.
I say I'm going to be here at 9 o'clock, I'll be here at 9 o'clock, right? If if I want to go even better, I'll be here at 8:55 or
Correct.
8:50, right? Doing what we say we're going to do. That's a way of building, establishing trust, right?
Wow.
If you know someone that every time you ask them to do something, or every time they say they're going to do something and they do it, right? I'm sure you would trust that person, right?
Absolutely.
So that's a huge part of building and establishing trust, right? Doing what we say we're going to do and sticking
Mm.
through and following through with that.
Mm.
And every time that we don't do that, the reality is that we can lose trust that people have in us. So it's crucial to be intentional with the trust that we're building with everybody. So it's always important to show up and have that and carry yourself with that reliability of I said I'm
Amazing.
going to do this, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how you put it. And I know there are other definitions you have to get to, but
Hmm.
reliability with trust, and just being able to build that into yourself as a young person, because a lot of people just discount it, like, oh, I said it but I couldn't make it, it's nothing. And we forget that every time we do that, we take away a little bit of trust from that relationship, because we said we were going to come, we did not show up. We said we are going to commit to this, we did not do it. And then gradually we become just, what it is that we are at a core, which is not being trustworthy. And sometimes that looks like, oh, I mean, aren't you taking it too far? I mean, this is really, I'm a young person, allow me to just, but what you're saying is that for us to be leaders, which all of us can be, there's a factor of trust that we have to build consciously, like intentionally. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Because if you're going to run a race with someone, you have to know that you can trust them.
Mm.
You have to know that you
Mm.
can trust them. Again, and reliability is a big part of that. Right.
Yeah.
Tina, would you ever want to have a doctor that wasn't reliable?
No.
That was always late to every appointment? Right. That
No.
always, put the wrong, prescription that they were giving you?
No.
You wouldn't trust them.
No.
So it's so, 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 so important to do what we say we're going to do. Very simply. So
Mm.
one, I think that it's being mindful of the things we commit to.
Yeah.
But two, also, hey, if I'm committing to something, I'm going to do it. Right? I'm going to be reliable in that sense. I'm going to follow through.
Mm. What about credibility? Does it matter? Like, I'm a young person. I mean, what does credibility have to do with me being a leader or being able to do something meaningful?
Hmm.
What is credibility?
Credibility is extremely important. I think it's something that is going to give someone ease. Right?
Mm.
Imagine again. Now you go into the doctor's office and you see the person has a plaque from a medical school when they have all
Mhm.
these awards. It's going to give you comfort. Right? Okay, I'm
Yeah.
dealing with someone that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, to even take it political, a lot of people did not have trust in our former president because he'd never been in a role as a president in politics,
Right.
in
Right.
government. So it's like, what experience do they have? Right? How are they credible to be in that position? So I think
Hmm.
it's important to always grow, to always seek knowledge.
Mm.
For me, if I'm sitting in front of someone, it's important for people to know that again they can trust me, right? So I want to be credible. I want to know that I have all the facts right, right? I want
Mm.
to know that if they are sharing something with me, I'm going to use that knowledge and best put them in the position to succeed and to go to their goals. And that again is getting rid of ego, right? If I don't know something, I'm going to be upfront, let people know, hey, I actually don't know that, but I'm going to ask a colleague and see if they know, versus just going along with it, right? That all ties back to credibility, right?
Mm.
Credibility is a big component in trust.
Amazing. So what you're saying is, even though you are the manager and the director of this new organization you have, you're still learning, and you told me you are doing some exams and all that. So even though you get to a certain level, you don't outgrow learning
Hmm.
as a person of who wants to be a leader.
And as in any profession, you're going to have what's called CE, right? Continuing
Hmm.
education.
Hmm.
That is the board that oversees whatever profession you're in, saying, hey, we just want to make sure you still know what you're doing, just to be
Right.
be careful. I remember when I this probably was in middle school or something. My dad, he was a physician and he had to take board exams. It's like, wait, what? You're already an MD. Why do you have to do this over again? It's like, it's CE, it's continuing education. We have to do it, and I have to do that as an advisor all the time. Every 2 years you have to take tests to certify that you're still that you're credible to be in your position.
You're
Because
credible.
without that, you it's hard to trust someone if you don't know, you're not fit for that role that they're trusting you to be in.
Wow. So anyway, just to for those who came in late, I see Adelaide on there. I see Millicent and Tijifa, you're on here. And all welcome. Jemima is on there. Welcome as well. But just to put it in context for those who missed the earlier part. So this is Archie Andah. He is 24 years old. Okay. So we said that the age wasn't classified, so we can share that. But so and he is he is leading himself. He started his financial business, and he has a team of five, and he's continuing to grow, and we are just learning some of the things that he's done and he's learned over the years. And I think it's a beautiful journey for us to see and learn as well. How can we continue to grow and lead ourselves as young people? Okay. And I have been asking him questions from my kids because they wanted to ask
Hmm.
me those questions. So we are asking those questions for the kids. And if you have any kid at home who is watching and wants to ask actually how he's been able to do it, come on, let's get him the questions because he's been there, he's lived through it. Another question that came up is peer pressure. How did you handle that when you were in school? I mean, with kids, I mean, wanting to fit in and wanting to be like everybody else. How did you manage peer pressure?
For peer pressure, again, I think it goes back to who we hang around. You know,
Mm.
um, Hopefully the people that you're hanging around, they're peer pressuring you into studying, right? They're peer pressuring you into going and seeking internships and wanting to grow. So I think it works both ways.
Yeah.
To have positive peer pressure and negative peer pressure.
Mm.
But I think the powerful piece of that is if we ever do encounter the negative peer pressure, we want to address it, or we want to understand it. And if we can't, the hope is that someone around us, is able to talk to us and let us know, hey, this thing you're doing, I disagree with this.
Mm. Mm.
Right,
Yeah.
the path you're going on, I disagree with this. Right, the people you're surrounding yourself with, I disagree with that.
Mm. Actually, I think there was one more thing that I forgot to. You talked about intimacy when you were
Hmm.
talking about the definition, and then there was another word that I don't remember.
Yeah,
Because
so it's
right.
reliability
Mm-hmm.
plus credibility plus
Mm.
intimacy divided by self orientation. That is trust. So we talked about reliability. That simply is doing what we're saying we're going to do.
Right.
Right? Credibility is to always present our best selves, right? To always be growing, right? To always seeking to understand. And with intimacy, I think that just ties into both of those things. But that again is just the closeness that we have with people. And I think
Mm.
the most powerful thing that we can do to have more intimate relationships with people is just to listen,
To listen.
to
Is that
listen,
something to do?
to listen.
To listen.
Hmm.
But that is so hard because sometimes we feel like we know everything, and it's I mean, especially with young people. Today is really young people leading yourself as a young person, right? And they feel like they know, especially when you get to a setting point like a teenager. They feel like they have all the answers in the world. So how do you listen? How do you listen? Because
So in
it
that,
doesn't
so
look
I
as
want,
simple.
so I wanted to kind of share some thoughts and
Hmm.
ideas that I've learned around communication. So we can either dive into that now, or we can kind of pause that and then go into it later, and then finish up the trust equation. Do you
Okay.
have a
Okay.
preference?
Sure. We can finish up the trust equation because
Okay.
we'll actually put it out there and
Okay. So we'll put an earmark on communication, right?
mhm.
How can we be better, have more relationships, right?
Yes.
So that's going to tie back to communication. The
Yeah.
last piece of the trust equation is self orientation,
Mm.
and that simply is being others focused. Being others focused.
Self-orientation.
Yes. And so with if you think about a formula in math, right? So you have reliability plus credibility plus intimacy, right?
Right.
That is on top. What's on the
Okay.
bottom is self-orientation. So the
Mm.
more that we care about self, the more that trust number is going to go down in value in a fractional
Mm.
formula. So that the less that we put ourselves at the forefront of things, the more that we increase trust. Self
Amazing.
orientation, putting others before ourselves, right? Asking, how can I help?
Amazing.
What can I do? Right?
Right.
Putting others ahead of self, right? Self orientation, right? Again,
Self-orientation.
Auntie Tina, if you're talking with someone, all they're saying is me, me. It's going to be hard to that can be off putting to someone. Whereas someone, again, it all ties together though. If someone is just listening to you, they're curious about you, genuinely curious about learning more about who you are, right? Well,
Mhm.
that intimacy, that lack of self orientation, that shows,
Mm.
that comes through, right? And you'll trust that person. Again, reliability plus credibility plus intimacy divided by self orientation. That's how we build trust.
Amazing. I don't remember I've seen this formula before. So
Hmm.
that is something new that I am learning today.
Hmm.
But I like how you put it together. So even though I'm not a math student, I can understand that the self-orientation is getting more people focused so that you can build the trust and all that is
Hmm.
related to that.
Hmm. Yeah,
That is
again, it's in a math formula, right? So let's say it's like you're doing like let's say 10 divided by um, 5, right?
yeah.
10 divided by 5, right?
Mhm.
That equals 2, right? But
True.
if you lower the 5, that 5 is self orientation. You're going to
Mhm.
have an increased number, right? If you change 5 to
Oh,
2, now the product of that is going to be 5, right? 10
amazing.
divided by 2 is equal to 5 versus 10 divided by 5 is equal to 2. So if you lower self orientation, you'll increase the product, which is trust.
Amazing. This is really good because I think we need to get some younger people to come listen in because I remember my son had mentioned something and said, well, a lot of the things we learn in school, we can't even apply it in real life. But this is you're applying this to real life, like the product of something. Like it's so easy now to see it. that
Hmm.
if you were to lower the amount at the bottom, then you can see the product increasing.
Hmm.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And for me, when I'm meeting with a client for the first time, the very first thing I'm going to say is actually a question. I want to ask them, "Hey, what's on your mind?" I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking
Mm,
about what I do, how big my team is, all that we manage. I'm not talking about any of that. I first want to ask them, "What's on your mind? What questions do you have for me? How can I be a resource to you? Right? What financially do you want to learn more about?" And I sit back and I just listen. That's it.
wow. So what you're saying, if I understand it clearly, is
Hmm.
when we start making people, you know, a priority, like being interested in people, we actually end up becoming good leaders in that
Hmm.
sense, because it's so easy to feel that if we keep talking and we keep putting out all the things, then we are the ones who are
Hmm.
powerful,
Hmm.
in charge. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
actually the other way.
exactly. Right, Auntie Tina. If you have a doctor that you know is reliable, a doctor that you know is credible, a doctor that you have a good relation where you can share, hey, I didn't eat this, I didn't take this, right? A doctor that is very others focused, a doctor you have trust with. If they tell you to do something, you probably would do it, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with an advisor, right? If you have an advisor that
Yeah.
you have trust with, when they give you a recommendation, you'll follow through with it. The same thing's true
Mm,
as a leader. If you have a leader in your life that you trust, you truly trust, right? You have the reliability component, the credibility component, the intimacy component, the lack of self orientation component, right? All that put together. If you have trust in a leader and they tell you to do something, you'll do it.
amazing. Yeah, that's true. It's really true.
Hmm.
Wow. So,
And you know the ultimate person who was great at this?
mm,
Jesus Christ. He was
yeah,
reliable. He
very
was
reliable.
credible. We have a strong intimacy with him. We can talk to him anytime we want. And self orientation. He was the. I mean, what else can anyone do that's more others focused than Jesus giving himself for us? And we
Amazing.
trust Jesus. We can share anything with him, right? So in us building trust, that's us being more Christ-like and stronger in our
Mm.
faith.
That's it. Like we can actually end here. And we already I think we can end here because we got the message. Because who else could be such a great example, right? And
Hmm.
this is who we are all striving to emulate. This is the person that we are all trying to be like. And we want to be like him. We want to be able to see him in us as we work with people, we do things, and that
Hmm.
is so amazing. I mean, one of the things that I picked up when you were talking, and I mean, I think there was a question that I wanted to ask
Hmm.
you earlier was what challenges have you faced as a young person, either getting through school or getting into business by yourself as an entrepreneur, managing a team? What are some of the challenges that you faced? And what has been, I mean, how have you managed it, or how do you
Hmm.
keep managing them?
I think the thing that can happen is as we're in this process of evolving and of growing, there's going to be some discomfort. Right? It's hard to hire someone, right, to carry on that higher overhead, right? It's hard to take that next class that's harder, right? It's going to be
Mhm.
discomfort. But the thing I've learned is that oftentimes we pray to God, we ask for strength, we ask for patience. We ask for these things, but God is funny in that when you ask God for strength, what He'll do is give you the opportunity to be strong, right?
Absolutely.
If you ask God for patience, He'll give you the opportunity
To be
to be
patient.
patient. And so, again, as we're going through struggle, I think oftentimes when we are in the midst of turmoil, it can feel like
Mm,
we've been buried. But in actuality, we've been planted as a
mm.
seed. And now this is a chance to grow.
Amazing. Amazing. Wow. So challenges are actually part of the thing.
Hmm.
It's not
Hmm.
strange. It's
Hmm.
expected. It's going to help us to grow.
Hmm.
That's how you would see it.
Hmm.
Amazing. So we've been talking about mentorship, and we are coming up on a mentorship for the next school year at the end of August, and you're going to be part of it. Why do you
Hmm.
think that is important for young people to have a mentor, to have someone they can connect with, someone who can, you know, help them along their journey as well. Did I lose you? Okay, so I think Archie's frozen for a minute, so we'll give him a chance to come back, right? But if you are watching and you have a question that you want us to have, hello?
I'm not sure what just happened.
Okay.
But would people still be able to hear me?
Yeah.
Talking to me? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Right as it went out, you asking me a question.
Mm-hmm. Can you join on your phone?
Yes, I can actually.
Okay.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right. All right. So let's give Archie a minute to join us and reconnect. He lost power, so it happens. It's technology age. So we'll give him a minute. He'll be with us in a minute. But we've been talking about leading yourself as a young person. And we've talked about challenges. We've talked about keeping yourself engaged and keeping yourself motivated, being able to surround yourself with good people, because we all need that, the people around us to keep us motivated, to keep us going. And that is something that, Archie has been talking about, has really helped him. What has been your experience as well? Who has been a mentor to you? Who has been able to help you in your journey? Share that and let's talk about mentoring, because that is such a good thing for us to have when we are connected, when we have a mentor, when we have someone who walks alongside us and can help us on our journey as well. So mentorship, who has been a mentor to you? It doesn't have to be a formal thing. It just could be an informal mentor that you see and and you love and you can trust, right? We talked about the trust equation, which is amazing. Reliability, credibility, intimacy divided by self orientation. Let's take some comments as we're waiting for Archie to rejoin us. Okay. All right. Dr. V has said that he's watching for the parents, but the parents are here already. And then we have someone who said, Helen, I think, says surrounding yourself with the right people is very important. And then learning to maximize the things around you. That is so true. And then we talked about what are you doing. So when Archie comes back, we'll ask a question. There was a question that we missed. So we'll ask that question. And this is a trust equation that we have. And then I think there is constant improvement. How do we continue to improve ourselves constantly? That is something that also will help us continue to grow and lead ourselves. Okay. All right. So we're still waiting for Archie to join, but I think the question that was asked, and I will see if we can answer it, or someone else has an answer to it, says, what is your motivation growing up? I think he had talked about his parents and keeping them as front and center. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So if you can hear Archie, let me know. We're going to keep him on the phone and we're going to talk. Okay. I think that's the best we can do, how innovative we can be at this time. All right.
Worst case, if it's not very well, I can always come back on.
Okay.
Another day.
Right. No, I think you should go, now that we are almost at the top of the hour. You should talk about your the things that you wanted to talk about, communication and all those things around leadership that helps you to continue to lead. What are your thoughts on those?
So this just goes back to trust building, and really within that, empathy.
Okay.
Empathy, right? The ability to understand and share the feelings of another. And so a really interesting book that I read that allowed me to develop as a leader, develop as a communicator it's called Never Split the Difference. It's by Chris Voss.
Okay.
And so the really interesting thing about Chris Voss is that he is the former FBI head of hostage negotiation.
I see.
Right, so he is someone that has to communicate effectively in very intense situations. And so in his book called Never Split the Difference, he's talking about how we all can communicate in our roles, right? Whether it is in negotiation, right, with buying a car, or whether it is being able to communicate with a spouse or someone close to us, or again, or as a leader, right? It always goes back to effective communication, and then within that, something he calls tactical empathy. Right, ways in which we are able to show our empathy. And so one of the first ways is through something he calls calibrated questions. Okay. So so calibrated questions, right? So if we're talking to someone, we want to be very intentional with the questions that we ask. Right, we want to ask very open-ended questions, right? And like the questions that you gave to me today, right? Those are great. Those are open-ended questions. And so the best way to ask open-ended questions is to ask what and how questions.
Okay.
Right. So an example of this would be, what was your journey? How were you able to accomplish this? Right. Open-ended questions that allow someone's brain to open up and to share more. Right. Because the reality is, it looks like it's locking back in here. So if it's because the time just came back on. But the reality is that, if you're in a scenario where someone is able to share more and open up more with you, that is going to be very effective in, again, going back to that trust building piece.
Yeah.
All right, I'm about to log back into the studio.
All right. Let's put you back here. All right.
All right. Hello?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Okay. Again, I apologize for the technical issue. Again, we're just talking about growth and things that can pop up that can delay things.
That is life, right?
So it's ironic in that sense, but yeah. So with tactical empathy, the first component of that is calibrated questions, right? Asking good, open-ended questions. When you think back to professions that people have the most trust in, really, I'd say it's going to be a therapist. Right. And all a therapist is doing is really two things. Now, there obviously is a lot. I don't want to, oversimplify it, but one, it's giving someone the forum to speak.
Yes.
And just listen. Right. Because there aren't too many places where, someone can go and just be heard and just be listened to.
Yep.
Right. So often issues can arise when people don't feel like they are being heard. Right. Again, that can be spouses, that could be parents with kids, right? They don't feel like they're being heard. So it's important to listen, ask good, open-ended questions. What and how questions, right? Someone could just come out, talk, and just share, right? Good, open-ended questions. So that is a huge piece of tactical empathy. The next part of that is something that is called mirroring.
Okay.
So that simply is, be able to just repeat back what someone said. Right, that lets the person that you're talking to know, I heard you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So if I'm with a client and they're saying, yes, so I want to retire when I'm 65. I want to have 10 grand a month of income. I want to know that when I retire, I won't have to go back to work. Then I'll say, okay, so we want to retire at 65. We want to know that we can have 10 grand a month of income, and we want to know that we won't have to go back to work. And they're going to say yes. And then in that, them saying yes, they're going to go and elaborate more on that. That's the power of just simply mirroring, just repeating back what someone said to you. One, again, it lets someone know that you heard them.
Right.
Two, it gives them the opportunity to agree with you. I think oftentimes when you think about disagreements, it happens because we are, on different sides of a table.
Right.
When the reality is the goal of a disagreement is to be on the same side of the table. Because once someone feels like they're on the same side of the table as you, it's going to be hard to disagree with them. It's going to be hard to be angry at them because you see that, hey, we're all on the same team, right? Parents with kids, right? We're all on the same team, right? We want to be on the same side of the table as them, right? Mirror, right? When someone says something to you, just repeat back what they said. Repeat back what they said.
Yeah.
repeat back what they said. That's so powerful in that. And the last piece of tactical empathy is called labeling. And so that simply is being able to almost create a hypothesis based off of what someone said. So it almost has the same effect as mirroring, but again, it
Hmm.
just gives someone more of an opportunity to share and elaborate more on thoughts, right? So for me, someone could say, yes, I want to retire at 65. I want to have 10 grand a month of income. I want to know
Hmm.
that I never have to go back to work. Okay, so it sounds like we want to have a very strong financial picture long term. And someone's like, yes, absolutely. For me, I saw my parents, they had to work until they were a long time. So I never want to have to go back to work. And now, in that, and me being able to do that, they're able to go deeper into their thought.
I see. I see.
And so, again, I think it goes back to just listening, but it goes back to first, those calibrated questions, asking
Mhm.
good what and how questions. Secondly, being able to mirror, just listen and let someone know that you're listening. And I think for me, again, I'm not saying I'm perfect at this, but I try to actively work and get better at this. So when someone
Mm.
talks, after they finish speaking, I won't say anything until 3 seconds after, because sometimes people keep talking. So I don't want to interrupt someone. So when someone says a
Mm.
statement, I want to wait 3 seconds before I talk again. I just want to listen. I want to listen. I think oftentimes we can make it a focus to just listen to respond versus listening to
Yeah.
listen. So
Yeah.
first, I just want to listen and let someone get their full thought out.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
lastly, right, labeling, right, being able to honestly label an emotion, right, label what someone's feeling. And if you're
Mm.
wrong, they'll tell you that, but they'll still appreciate, hey, you're actively listening to be able to come up with that assumption, that hypothesis into the thought that I'm having, right? So those
Mm.
are the three components of tactical empathy: calibrated questions, right, be able to mirror, and be
Mhm.
able to label emotions.
Wow.
And for me, I'd say that is a huge part in being a leader, right? Because now someone, because they know that you're going to listen to them, someone's going to be more receptive to listening to me, right? Whether
Mhm.
it's one of my team members, right? Hey, I'm struggling with this, right? They're comfortable sharing that to me. And I think it's so crucial to do that. And the hard thing as well as that is to not have judgment, to not
Mm.
have judgment when someone is sharing things to you. And so,
Right.
and so the thing that again I struggle with is that when someone's talking, I can say, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, And for me, I think I want to have that because I want someone to do that with me, so I know that they're listening. But the issue is that if you do that, and then someone shares something that is upsetting, and you stop doing that, they're going to sense that judgment. So for me
Mm.
now, if someone's talking, I just want to listen. I just want to listen, wait 3 seconds, and then be able to respond, right, and not have the judgment there, because I want people to I want to create that forum of trust. I want to build that up, right, and
Nice.
be able to do that, be able to take a step back, let someone listen. That is again that powerful piece of the self orientation side, the intimacy side, right? Having those
Mm.
strong communication skills and always just looking to evolve them and make them better.
Amazing. It doesn't sound that easy to be a leader then. It looks easy though. You make it look very easy. It looks like it comes to you very easily. But it doesn't, like when you start talking about the details and the work that it involves. So it means that if you want to be a good leader, like we are all leaders, we can all lead. But if we want to be good leaders, then there are things that we have to intentionally be working on constantly, right? Or can we just, get to a point and feel like we're good with listening, we're good, we can move on.
Again, it's self-awareness, and like you said, we're all leaders. As a parent, we're a leader. As a
Mhm.
sibling, we're a leader. As a friend, we're a leader, right? As a pastor, we're a leader. So it's important to have the self-awareness to know the role and effect that we have on the people closest to us, right? Again, the five closest people in our lives, we're the average of that.
Wow.
So we're all leaders. We're all
Mm.
leaders.
There was a question that came when
Hmm.
you dropped off, and I think you answered it, but I'll still bring it up. You said, "What was your motivation growing up?" I think you had talked about it a bit already, but just in case someone missed it.
My motivation growing up, for me, was seeing how hard my parents worked.
Mm.
Right, they came to the United States with a visa lottery. Again, no
Mm.
money in that, just pure chance. They
Yeah.
came and didn't have anything, and they built it up. Right. My dad had to do 8 years of residency.
Wow.
My mom worked. She was overworked for much of her career. Right. I barely saw them, but I knew they were working. So that for me, that was a big part of things for me, because I want to honor all the sacrifices that they made for me.
Mm.
Right. eight
Yeah.
years. That's a long time. Right. And my mom worked even longer. Right. Worked nights, would travel all the time. I want to
Mm.
honor that.
And that keeps you going, and that was what
Hmm.
you encourages you to do your best. I love
Hmm.
that. Just being able to honor. So for kids who may not have had, or sometimes you not get it when you try to say, okay, so yeah, maybe the first generation or second generation immigrant children, and you're thinking, well, everything comes to me easily. I have American passport, I have everything. So you don't really value what you have. What are your closing thoughts on leading yourself when you have everything as a young person? Everything. You're born in the US. You have you have access to everything. And sometimes that does not encourage you to do well. Even
Hmm.
though it can be different for everyone, but some people it doesn't really motivate them.
So in that's why it is really cool to watch athletes. Athletes, the ones we see on TV, are the best in the world at their trade.
Yeah.
The best in the world at their trade. You have to be
Mm.
so good to be the best, the elite of the elite in your
Yeah.
trade. And
Yeah.
one thing athletes do is film study. So if
Mm.
they have played a game, they're going to go back and watch that game.
Really?
They're going to watch how they can be better. Hey, you made a mistake here. When you're in that scenario, you have to be thinking of this, right? Pass the ball here, right? Athletes are so great at that. And all that is just self awareness,
Mm.
right? When, again, things can happen, right? When we're going through struggles. But a important question to ask ourselves is, what part of the problem is me?
Mm.
What part of the problem is me? And once you ask that question and truly ask yourself and try to answer it and actively look to work on that, that's how you grow. That's how you get better. What
Mm.
part of the problem is me?
Wow. Wow. Amazing. God bless you, Archie. I think I'm just echoing I think Helen was someone who said it. And Archie was like, oh, like really, you know, can't be too proud, but this is really a proud moment for her. And I am so thankful
Mhm.
that we have young people like you who are coming up ready to lead yourself, ready to help lead others. And I'm excited about the mentorship program because I know that you being part of it is going to help shape a lot of the younger people, give them perspectives, and help them to grow and
Mhm.
become better selves of you. So, thank you all for being part of our conversation today and bearing with us with all our technical difficulties. It's been amazing having you for sure. And I am very blessed to have Archie as part of the mentors and the people we have here on Masterpiece. And he was one of the first people to believe me, I think, and what I was trying to do. So thank you so much, Archie, for believing. I think that also speaks to your leadership and being able to see things early and be able to identify things early and align yourself to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, for me, it's about being a steward of my blessings. It's about pouring back into the people who poured into me. Right. I'll never
Mhm.
forget the moments. Me, David, and Eunice. Sunday school, all the hours that you guys spent pouring into us. Um, I I wouldn't be a steward of my blessings if I didn't go back and pour them into others. And the powerful part of that is once we do that, right? There's a powerful just exponential effect of the growth. Right. Once I was
Mhm.
poured into by someone, I now can pour into someone else, and then pour into someone else, and they can pour into other people, and that's how we all just grow as a community.
Someone said when they grow up, they want to be like us. Then you have to come to my Sunday school then.
Yeah.
Hey, but it's been a great time talking to Archie.
Thank
It's
you, thank you,
always a
thank you so much for
blessing.
having me.
It's always a
I'll always
blessing.
make myself available.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, financial questions as well, Archie is a great person at that. And like I said, he already has his firm. He has a team that is working diligently with him. And wouldn't you like someone that is continuously growing and improving? I would like him to be an advisor to me, right? And you can have a free consultation with him. So I will drop his information in there. If you want to reach out to him, please do, and let's continue to, encourage ourselves, be our best, and show up and do the best we can every day, because we are all leaders and we can all do this if we continue to grow and improve. Thank you so much. Next week we'll be talking
Thank
about
you.
entrepreneurship, and I hope to see you then. All right, take care. Bye.
Bye.